The disappearance of Mike Williams. On December 16, 2000, Mike Williams, a 31-year-old husband and father, went on a duck hunting trip to Lake Seminole in Florida. Mike was no stranger to the lake, having grown up hunting with his father and friends. This trip was supposed to be just another adventure in the great outdoors, one where he could take a break from the grind of daily life and enjoy some solitude. But when Mike didn't return home, a chain of events began that would ultimately reveal a shocking and sinister plot. Mike's wife, Denise Williams, and their young daughter, Michelle, were left in shock when Mike failed to return. His boat was found on the lake, still running but with no sign of Mike. Authorities launched a massive search operation, but despite efforts to locate him, they found no trace of his body. The official story at the time was that Mike had tragically drowned. His boat had capsized, and it was believed that he had been swept away by the strong currents of the lake. Alligators in the area were even blamed for the possible fate of his body. With no other leads, Mike Williams was declared dead, a victim of a tragic accident. But things were not as they seemed. Denise Williams, now a widow, was quick to collect a hefty life insurance payout of $1.75 million, which she used to secure her and her daughter's future. She even remarried 5 years later to Brian Winchester, Mike's best friend since childhood. The two had always been close, and Mike had trusted Brian implicitly. But in a cruel twist of fate, it was Brian who would ultimately become the catalyst for uncovering the dark truth behind Mike's death. For years, the case remained closed, and Denise went on with her life as if nothing had happened. However, Mike's mother, Cheryl Williams, was not convinced by the official narrative. She couldn't shake the feeling that something was off about her son's disappearance. She had always known Mike to be a responsible and cautious man, and she didn't believe for a second that he would have been careless enough to drown in a hunting accident. She tirelessly worked to keep the case alive, writing letters, contacting authorities, and pushing for further investigation into her son's death. Then, in 2016, something unexpected happened that would change everything. Brian Winchester, who had long been the picture of a grieving best friend, was arrested on unrelated charges. At the time, he was a married man with a family of his own, but his past began to unravel. During his interrogation, Brian made a startling confession, one that would send shockwaves through the Williams family and the entire community. Brian admitted that he had played a direct role in Mike's death. He told investigators that on the morning of December 16, 2000, he and Denise had made plans to kill Mike in order to collect his life insurance money. Mike had no idea that the man he trusted most in the world, his best friend, was plotting his murder. Brian and Denise had planned the entire thing down to the smallest detail. They knew that Mike would go on the duck hunting trip, and they knew exactly where he would be. They used the trip as an opportunity to set the wheels of their deadly plan in motion. Brian explained that on the day of Mike's disappearance, he and Denise had met Mike at the lake. They went through the usual pre-hunt routine, but everything had been carefully orchestrated. After getting Mike alone, Brian and Denise attacked him, forcing him into the water. Brian described how Mike tried to fight back, struggling in the cold, dark waters, but it was all for nothing. He was soon overwhelmed. The plan had been to make Mike's death look like an accidental drowning. But there was more to the story than that. Brian's confession revealed a chilling truth. After Mike was incapacitated and left to drown, Brian and Denise made sure to hide the body. They didn't want any evidence of their crime to surface. They took great care to make sure no one would discover the truth, at least not for a long time. Brian's confession was just the beginning. Investigators, now with a clear understanding of what had happened, launched a full investigation into the crime. What followed was an unraveling of a twisted and calculated conspiracy. Both Brian and Denise were arrested and charged in connection to Mike's murder. Denise Williams, who had spent years playing the role of a grieving widow, was charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory after the fact. Her role in the crime was undeniable, and the investigation revealed how deeply involved she had been in plotting her husband's death. But despite the overwhelming evidence against her, Denise maintained her innocence. insisting that she had nothing to do with the death of her husband. The case took an even darker turn when it was revealed that Denise had been carrying on a romantic relationship with Brian Winchester for years, even while she was still married to Mike. Their affair was central to the motivation behind the murder. The two had been in love, and they had decided that the only way to be together was to eliminate the one person standing in their way, Mike Williams. The trial of Denise Williams was long and arduous, but in 2018, she was found guilty of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Her former lover, Brian Winchester, was also convicted and sentenced to 20 years in prison for his role in the murder. But despite their convictions, the case continued to raise unsettling questions. How could two people, especially those who had been so close to Mike, betray him in such a brutal and calculated way? What was it about their relationship that led them to murder someone who had once been their friend, their husband, and their father? The case of Mike Williams is a haunting reminder of the dangers that can lurk in seemingly ordinary lives. It's a story of love turned deadly, of betrayal so deep it could only be the result of the darkest of human motives. For Mike Williams, his death was not just a tragic accident. It was a carefully orchestrated murder by the people he trusted the most. Mike Williams' case continues to captivate the public's imagination, not just because of the shocking nature of the crime, but because of the heartbreak and destruction it caused. His family, friends, and the community were left reeling, trying to make sense of how someone could commit such an awful act. This tragic story serves as a stark reminder that the people we trust most can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the most. It also emphasizes the importance of vigilance and questioning everything, even when it seems like there are no answers. Mike's family's unwavering pursuit of the truth ultimately led to justice for Mike, but for those who loved him, the pain of his loss will never truly go away. In the end, the betrayal of Mike Williams is a story of deception, love, and ultimately, justice served, but at a heartbreaking cost.